Okay. Let me take to the first model number 5, that axisymmetric elements. I told you are we are already discussed, and where you discussed, someone said that it is model number 1. Correct. In model number, which topic we have discussed this one? Which topic? That is in the types of elements. Correct. Isn't it? So in types of element we are discussed. Can you tell me anyone what are the types of elements are there? Types of elements. Yes, 1D, 2D, 3D. Yes, axisymmetric. Yes, good. See, in that we are discussed 1D, 2D, 3D. 1D means it kind of there is 1 degree of freedom at each node. We are going to consider having 1 degree of freedom at every each node, and the 1D bar elements is a one kind of 1D type of elements, and displacement we consider only on the along the x-axis. In 2D means we are going to consider the 2 degree of freedom at each node. One is along displacement along x and displacement along y. So example like quadratic elements are 2D elements, even triangular elements are 2D elements will be there. And 3D means we are going to consider the 3 degree of freedom at each node, like x, y along in z direction displacement we are going to consider. So like tetrahedral elements, will be there. So those are the kind of hexahedral, tetrahedral. These are the kind of 3D elements. And next one is the axisymmetric elements we have discussed. So axis symmetry. What is axis symmetric elements means? What is axisymmetric elements? So when this is the special kind of special element. This is the kind of special element. I think I'll show the notes. I think we are what are the things we discussed. Yeah, with respect to this, we are discussed there now. Hello. Yeah. So this is the topic we discussed in there. So same thing now whole and soul in this model number 5. We're all dedicated to axisymmetric elements only. We are going to discussing now. See, axisymmetric elements is refers to a kind of 3D bodies as a 2D representation for solids of revolution. Axisymmetric analysis includes section of solid to be analyzed as a 2D analysis. The boundary condition should enumerate the condition of symmetric in nature, axisymmetric in nature. See, that is very, very important. See, when he says considering the structure or boundary condition with respect to the axis, anything it is symmetric. Like kind of you take it as like barrels. You can say I shown here already on some kind of barrels or kind of cylinder, boiler cylinder, anything which is pressure vessel, boiler cylinder. All these things kind comes under the axis symmetric problems. See, when with respect to the axis, it is symmetry will be there. See, this is the axis now. This is the axis with respect to that symmetry. Symmetry in geometry or symmetry in maybe boundary conditions or load conditions. So all this we consider as a axis symmetric problems. See, that is what the axis symmetric elements where and all any boundary condition or it may be like geometric properties are all symmetric with respect to the axis will be there. So those kind of problems we called as a axis symmetric problem. I think we have that is what we discussed here. I think here in the first module I will show that notes. Yeah, here. Here, when the geometry or boundary condition, load, and material properties identical with respect to the axis of symmetry, that is very, very important. Identical in the sense symmetry, symmetry. So this 3D problem are, can be converted into 2D problem, and also here in a other elements like 1D, 2D, 3D, it comes under Cartesian coordinate system. What is Cartesian coordinate means? With respect to x, with respect to y, and with respect to z will be there. But in case of axis symmetry, it kind of the axis are with respect to r, with respect to z, and one more is theta. This is very important. R, theta, z. You can observe figure here. We shown all those three. Here r, here z, and also there is a including between r and z. There is a theta. So this is the and there is a changes in the axis also. But in case of Cartesian 2D, 3D, 1D elements, Cartesian x, y, z will be there. But now r, theta, z will be there. So here example I taken, we have taken pressure vessel, piston, turbine, flywheels, which is usually kind of circular nature is there, no, that we treated as like a axis symmetric problem. So that is what we discussed in the first module, and now in depth we will going to take it here. See, all axis symmetry problems what we are going to discuss, we are dealing with, it's solved kind of 2D problem. That is what he is saying here. Axis symmetry refers to a analysis of 3D bodies as 2D representation. But see, you can observe here, it look like 3D only. Obviously, the cylinder look like 3D only. Therefore, it is kind of 3D body. But we are going to represent with the axis symmetry in a 2D. Means why? How it becomes 2D means that is what we are going to take up here. See, uh, I will tell you why that. The problem domain must have axis of symmetry, have an axis of symmetry. The condition for axis symmetry problem, the problem domain must be an axis of symmetry. Means with respect to the geometry, with respect to the axis, everything should be symmetry is there. That is the one condition. And here, as I told already, the coordinate system are r, theta, and z. The boundary condition is symmetry about the axis and independent of theta. Keep this in mind. The boundary condition are symmetric about the axis and independent of theta. All loading condition are symmetric about z. This also independent of circumference direction theta. That is the things very important. Why become 3D 2D means, see, even though the body look like 3D, the all axisymmetric bodies are 3D only. That 3D we are going to convert it to like a 2D analysis when you are using axisymmetric elements. Why axisymmetric elements become 2D means, with respect to r, theta, z, we are going to consider what are the direction, variables with respect to theta is there, no, with an angular direction, that we consider as constant. It's never vary with theta, it's only vary with r and z. That's why we are going to treating as it's a kind of 2D. That is what they mentioned here. I think hope you can see here. uh, yeah. Axis symmetry refers to the analysis of 3D bodies as 2D representation for solids of revolution. The axis symmetric analysis includes a section of solid to be analyzed as a 2D analysis. Very important thing. The section of solid to be analyzed as a 2D. Even though it is 3D, we are going to analyze like a 2D with respect to the axis symmetric elements. So why become 2D means, because what are the parameter will be there, no? Parameter in the sense as mentioned here, boundary conditions, loading conditions, anything, displacement, stress, strain, all these with respect to theta, it is going to be neglected or constant will be treated as. So that is known as 2D analysis. That's why Z variation will not be there. Only R and Z with respect to that variation will be considered. Any strain, any stress, displacement, boundary condition. That is what they're saying no here. All loading conditions symmetric about Z. Hence, these are also independent circumferential direction. That means theta direction, what are the variables will be there, that we treated as constant or neglected. That's why it is become like 2D analysis, not 3D. And one more thing very important, as I told here, as I mentioned, the axis are with respect to r, theta, z. With respect to r, always radial direction will be there. Z will be with respect to length, means height. What is the length of that barrel will be there, that is. And theta will be along the circumferential direction they are going to consider. So therefore, what are the variation along the circumferential direction? No, that we treated as 0. That's why it is become like a 2D analysis. Also, one more condition of axis symmetry problems are the material properties must be homogeneous or symmetric. That is very important. All the properties are homogeneous, symmetric. Almost we are considering assuming like that only homogeneous. This condition always satisfied for isotropic material. Means only for isotropic material you will get a symmetric. But what we are practically we are using, it's not a isotropic material, that you know well. So based on assumption only we are going to do that. So therefore, all isotropic material we can treat it as symmetric and homogeneous material. And finally, the solution are independent of theta. That is what I just clearly mentioned now. What are the solution will get with respect to theta, we are going to be neglected are independent of theta. Let we are considered. That's why it is become 2D analysis. That is become 2D analysis. Axis symmetry problems are become 2D analysis. Understood? Hello? All of you clear? All of you should respond. That is, I already beginning I said. Anything you are not understood, please let me know. Understood? Keep this in mind. All axis symmetric problems are 2D, not a 3D. What are the variation along the circumferential direction, that is theta direction is there, that we are going to neglect. Only we are considering the R and Z direction, the variation, not in theta direction. That's why it's become 2D. And also in the first module, we are discussed what are the basic governing equation will comes under this. Let me take up say once again. So you see, this is a part of cylindrical body, cylindrical body with respect to the coordinate system r, theta, and z. We are take one small elemental portion in the cylindrical body. You can see there are stress and will be produced, and strain also will produce, and also yeah, stress and strain both are there. What are the types of stress are there? You can observe. One is normal stress, one is shear stress. You can observe here. One is the normal stress along z r direction is sigma r, and here sigma theta, and here sigma x. So one is radial stress. This is stress along the z direction, and are we called as longitudinal direct stress, and sigma theta. Sigma theta is called as circumferential stress. See, in a mom topic, your studies about thick and thin cylinder, right? Huh? Hello. So the thick and thin cylinder will comes under any type of thick and cylinder problems will comes under this type of axisymmetric problems. See, in thick and cylinder, you are done. We are discussed. You are going to calculate the stress. What are the types of stress you are going to calculate? What are the types of stress you are going to calculate there? What are the types of stress will be induced on the cylindrical portion whenever it's subjected to a pressure under internal pressure? Huh? Hello. One is hoop stress, correct? One is hoop stress or circumferential stress. One more is called which stress? Longitudinal stress. And one more is called which stress? One more. Radial stress. Okay. Got it? Hoop stress, radial stress, and longitudinal stress. So with respect to that, sigma c is nothing but sigma theta. Sigma is nothing but sigma z, and sigma r nothing but radial stress only here also. So that is what we consider here. And with respect to that, there will be a shear stress also, 3 normal stress and 3 shear stress, that is tau r theta, tau r z, and tau theta z. And also strain components corresponding normal and shear stress. There is a corresponding normal strain and shear strain. Normal strains are with respect to sigma r, epsilon r, with respect to sigma theta, epsilon theta, with respect to sigma z, epsilon z will be there. Corresponding with respect to shear strains are there. That is gamma r theta, gamma r z, and gamma theta z. Now, if you want to calculate and also stress strain relation, if you are, so what is epsilon r? Nothing but dou u by dou r. What is epsilon theta? Nothing but u by r plus 1 by r dou u by dou theta. What is epsilon z means dou w by dou z. Similarly, what is gamma r theta means 1 by r dou u by dou theta plus dou v by, I think, let me take up this better. Yeah. So I think we are discussed same thing in a model number 1, stress strain relations and all, this only. As I told, what are the stress and strain with respect to theta is there that going to be neglected. That is gamma r theta, gamma theta z, gamma tau r theta, tau theta z, and sigma theta is equal to 0. And remaining components are epsilon r, epsilon theta, epsilon z, and gamma rz. Therefore, epsilon r nothing but dou u by dou r, epsilon theta nothing but u by r, epsilon z nothing but dou w by dou z. So epsilon nothing but displacement along radial direction, that is u. Epsilon theta is just u by r, that is constant, and epsilon z is nothing but displacement along z direction, that is w. and gamma rz nothing but shear strain along r and z, that is dou u by dou z plus dou w by dou r. And also we are discussed in the module number 1 this stress strain relation directly we taken, that is sigma sigma r sigma z sigma theta gamma rz is equal to e by 1 minus mu 1 minus 2 mu and that into this matrix. What is this two matrix is called? Sorry. So this is, I think you know that sigma is equal to, so this is known as D matrix, correct? This is known as D matrix. This is known as epsilon matrix. Sigma matrix is equal to D into epsilon matrix. What is D matrix? This is the D matrix. Hello? We are discussed no in stress strain relation in the first module. This is known as sigma matrix. This much is called D matrix. It is known as nothing but material property matrix. And this is the strain matrix. There are four strain: epsilon r, epsilon z, epsilon theta and gamma rz, and four stress: sigma r, sigma z, sigma theta, gamma rz. So that's why this three matrix is called stress strain relation matrix for a case of axisymmetric case. Got it? Hello? There is a derivation, but we are not going to take the derivation. Only final stress-strain relation only we are going to consider. That's all. That we are written just. Okay. Now, very important now basics again. What is the FEA formulation? With respect to FEA formulation of this axisymmetry formulation is here. Please listen carefully. As they mentioned here, axisymmetric stress analysis can be formulated in terms of two displacement components. See, displacement components we are going to consider as two, not three, because what is the displacement along theta is there that we are neglected. So therefore, what are those two displacements are? One is along radial direction, one is along axial direction, that is length direction. Along the circumferential direction we are neglecting, that is 0. Therefore, one is displacement along radial direction, that is r, in the axial direction, that is z direction. So the displacement along radial direction we consider denoted by u. The displacement along the axial direction, axial in the sense, hope you can understood what is axial direction. This is the axial direction. See, this is the axial direction, this is the radial direction, and this is called circumferential direction. Is it clear? Okay. So therefore, the displacement along the radial direction is u. The displacement along axial direction is w. Therefore, the displacement vector become u is equal to u is equal to u and w. That is not v. This is w. Therefore, the displacement vector become u w. Okay, got it? Hello, hello. Keep this in mind. Uh, with respect to radial direction, what is the is there? That is we called as u. With respect to z direction, what is the displacement is there? That is we called as w. That's all. Therefore, and as I said already, it is independent of angle of theta. What is the displacement along the theta is there that we are not considering. Therefore, the stress matrix become sigma r, sigma theta, sigma z, and tau rz. That gamma rz, not tau. Sorry, tau rz. This is shear stress. Similarly, the strain matrix become already discussed epsilon r, epsilon theta, epsilon z, gamma rz, and body force vector become along the r along z direction only. Again, along theta direction is not there. Keep this in mind. So these are the some of the basics with respect to the axisymmetric elements. The axisymmetric elements, it's a kind of 2D analysis, representation of 3D body into into a 2D representation. And why 3D means 2D means, as I said, what are the variation along the z direction is there? that sorry, theta is there, that is we are going to neglect. Therefore, the axis symmetry problems must be, when you are going to consider the axis symmetric elements, means the what are the geometric boundary conditions or loading is there, that should be symmetry about to the axis. Then only we will treat it as axis symmetric elements. Example: turbines, rotors, pressure vessels, which is having usually rotary nature kind of structures there, that we treated as axisymmetric problems. So therefore, here we are going to considering the stresses along the z theta direction is 0. So that is very important. That is, these are the things will become 0, and displacement only along r and z we are going to consider, that is u and w, not theta direction. It is independent of that. So, and also even the forces also we are going to consider along two direction. One is r, one is z, not along the z theta direction. All the circumferential direction variation we are going to neglect it. That's all. So that is called about the axis symmetric elements and principle or properties of axis symmetric elements. Is it clear? Hello. Now now based on this basics, we are moving to the derivation part now. See, in this whole module, where two important derivations there, every time these two only repeated, because nothing else. Either he has to give one either this or that derivation. One is shape function derivation, another one is called stiffness matrix derivation. That's all. These two derivation is there. If you practice one 10 marks, usually shape function they are given it 12 marks. Uh, marks. Yeah, this derivation carries 12 marks, and stiffness matrix carries 10 marks. I think minimum 10 marks will get. That's I can say. And topics are fixed topics. I said two derivation, one problem. That is only one problem is there. Every time that problem only almost time it is repeated, because nothing else they can do. He can give only that problem only he has to give. That's all. Maybe he can vary the data. That's why if you practice well, you can take up around say 20 marks. So that's why please listen carefully derivations, because derivation if you understood, problems become very easy. In order to understand stiffness method derivation means first you have to understand shape function derivation for a axisymmetric element. Otherwise you won't. Okay. Let me take up the first derivation on the shape function for an axisymmetric triangular element. See, all axisymmetric elements is there, no? It's a kind of triangular elements will be there. Triangular elements means it's shape in triangular along with three nodes will be there. One is three, one, two, three with respect to the three corner. So therefore, all axis symmetric elements are in a triangular form, not quadratic or tetrahedral. Keep this in mind. It's a tria elements. Like in 2D is there no quad and tria. It's here like a tria, that is triangular. Tria in the sense triangular elements. All axis symmetric elements are kind of triangular shape will be there. That's why it's called axis symmetric triangular elements. So it's having three nodes, one, two, three. Now, with respect to this triangular elements, we can observe in this figure, in the right side figure, they are denoted with the displacement and they are denoted with the coordinates. Let me take up first coordinates. See, with respect to node 1, the corresponding coordinates are r1, z1. With respect to node 2, the corresponding coordinates are r2, z2. And with respect to node 3, r3, z3. And as I mentioned, here we are going to consider only two directional displacement with respect to direction only. One is with respect to r, another with respect to what? Another with respect to which direction? One is with respect to r direction, another with respect to which direction? That direction. With respect to r is u, with respect to z is w. Therefore, at node 1, the corresponding displacement with are u1, w1, u2, w2, u3, w3. Clear? Clear? The R1, Z1, R2, Z2, R3, Z3 are called global coordinate system. Called global coordinate system. Clear? Hello? Okay. Now, with respect to this displacement, what is the nodal displacements are there? That nodal displacement which is going to vary like a, we are going to consider like a one polynomial function is common in all derivation. You will see that how we consider in the before, same thing here also, polynomial function. So suppose if u varies with respect to this polynomial function, that is a1 plus a2r plus a3z, and the w displacement, what is there, the displacement along the z direction, that will be vary with respect to this this interpolation model, that is polynomial interpolation model, that is a4 plus a5r plus a6z. Now this is the general displacement model we consider. With respect to this, with respect to this triangular axisymmetric elements u1, there are three displacement along r direction, u1, u2, u3, and w1, w2, w3 along z. Therefore u1 is equal to, according to this, a1 plus a2 r1 plus a3 z1, and similarly u2 is equal to a1 plus a2 r2 a3 z2, u3 is equal to a1, what are the displacement, r3 z3. Correct now? Hello? So these are the displacement along the radial direction. Along the radial direction. Similarly, along the axial direction, the displacement is W. That is W1 is equal to, can you tell me what is that? A4, A4 plus A5. W1 is equal to what will come? W1 is equal to A4 plus A5. What is the coordinate system here? At node 1. At node 1, what is the coordinate? Hello? R1, Z1, no? Similarly, here also W1 is equal to A4, A5, R1 plus A6, Z1. What is W2 become? What is W2 become? A4 plus A5 into what? What is the displacement? What is the coordinate now? R2 plus A6 into Z. What is the coordinate system here? Into Z2. Similarly, W3 is equal to A4 plus A5 into what? A5 into R3 plus A6 into Z3. Correct now? Clear? Hello? This is along the axial direction. Is it clear? Hello? Okay. So this is the total nodal displacement along radial and axial direction, u1, u2, u3, w1, w2, w3. Now we are going to express in a form of matrix now. How? Let me see. First you take this matrix, radial direction matrix, nodal displacement as radial direction. We are going to express in the matrix form like this: u1, u2, u3 is equal to 1 r1 z1, 1 r2 z2, 1 r3 z3 into a1, a2, a3. If you multiply, you will get the same equation, isn't it? Isn't it? This three equation we are going to express in a matrix form. That's all. Clear? Hello? Now, I will keep A1, A2, A3 matrix, this matrix, and I will transfer this matrix to the left hand side. Therefore, this matrix become inverse matrix. Isn't it? Inverse. Correct? I will keep this A1, A2, A3 and I will transfer this matrix into the left hand side, that is become inverse matrix. Now, Let me call this inverse matrix as A matrix. Now I need to find the what is the inverse of this A matrix. That is A inverse matrix. I need to find the value. So that we know the formula. A inverse is equal to adjoint of A divided by determinant of A. Isn't it? Adjoint of A divided by determinant of A. Now we need to find what is the adjoint of matrix of A and what is the determinant matrix of A individually, and we need to substitute finally. Therefore you will get finally the inverse matrix, this one, that we need to do now. Now here, to do that, here you require the very fundamental things of matrix operation. Very fundamental things of matrix operation. Till now we have seen only 2 cross 2 matrix, but now 3 cross 3 matrix is there now. To find the adjoint, how to do that? Can you tell me how to do the adjoint of matrix? How to do the adjoint of matrix? Can you anyone tell me? See, yes, sir. See, this adjoint matrix we can call as equivalent to C of T. What is C of T? Means nothing but cofactor matrix. T stands for transpose. C called as cofactor matrix. I think you are heard about cofactor matrix. Cofactor matrix, you heard it? Cofactor. This adjoint of matrix that is equal to C times C of T. C of T nothing but T stands for transport and stands for cofactor matrix. See, now I need to find what is C of T. If you do the C of T, then that is nothing but adjoint of matrix. Now here, as I told, basics of matrix operation is required. First of all, we need to consider the sign convention. Correct? Someone said, what is the sign convention? What sign convention you have to use it? In basics like A11, A12, A13, A21, A22, A23, A31, A32, A33. Correct? No? These are the elements inside the matrix. Correct? Hello? Hello? Now, A11. 1 plus 1 become how much? 1 plus 1 become how much? 2. 2 is a even number or odd number? Even. Therefore, here we can treat it as positive. Now, here 1 plus 2. How much? 3. Therefore, all even number and and even number considered as positive, odd number considered as minus. And here, plus or minus now. 3 plus 1. Plus. Here. Here. 2 plus 1 how much? This here plus or minus? Sorry. 3 1 no. This is plus. Correct. This is first you have to understand this basics of sign convention. To find the adjoint of matrix, first you should know sign convention. All of you clear this sign convention? Suppose if it is a 4 cross matrix, I will continue the matrix now. 4 cross matrix. 4 cross matrix means what will comes now? Here F41, A41, sorry, A42 and A43 will be there. Now what is the sign convention become? So here minus plus minus like that. But now we don't want that because we have only 3 cross 3 matrix. I will erase this. Correct? Hello? Is it clear? Now, according to this, the sign convention, I will write it here itself. What is it comes here? Plus, minus, plus. And what is this here? What is this here? And what is next? Okay. Is it clear? Now, now, adjoint. Adjoint is nothing but cofactor matrix of transpose. Cofactor matrix nothing but A matrix. Therefore, this is my A matrix. Now, to find adjoint now, can you tell me? Someone said, see, take the first one. This will take the first one. Leave this first and second, first column and first row. And what is the next you get? This cross multiply, you have to do it. Correct now? Z3 into R2 minus Z2 into R3. Sorry. Minus Z2 into R3. Correct? Yeah. Anyway, plus we default if you not written also. That's why I have not written. Okay. Next, what is the next thing? Let me take the second one. This one. You neglect this. What is the next cross multiply? What is that? Z3 into 1 minus into what is there? Whole into, keep this in mind, minus will be there. Correct? Here. Okay. Next. Next, let me take this one now. I will erase this. I will erase this. Now, let me take the third one. What is the next one? One minute. Need to write now. Okay. I need to eliminate this. Now, I will take these two elements. R2 into, so R3 minus R3 into cross multiply. R3 into 1 minus plus or minus. Still comes under plus. Correct? Okay. Let me take the second one. Similarly. What is second one? I will erase this. I will take the 1 minute. So first we'll take a sign convention here. What is the sign convention here? Minus, minus. Now I will take this now. Second one. So therefore second row and all this column. Correct? Correct? Now multiply these two now. Here, what is that? Z3, Z1 into, no, sorry. Z3 into, Z3 into R1 minus Z1 into R3. Okay. Next. Oh, good. Here, minus. So minus, if you multiply later, it become plus. Plus become minus, minus become plus. Correct? What is the next one? Next I will take this one. Next I will do. I will take second row as usual, but second column I will neglect. So now what is the next one? Z3 into A1 I am going to neglecting. Okay. Into plus is there. Correct? Okay. What is the next one? Now I will eliminate. I will neglect this third column and second row. Now plus or minus here since notation. Yeah. Minus into what is that? R3 R1. So like that you have to do for third row also. Isn't it? Hello? Clear? Can you tell me what is next will comes here? Anyway, I will write it. That also. Let me neglect this. Third row, third column I will neglect. What is the next one? Plus, sir, what is the notation sign convention? Tell me here. Plus, minus, plus. Okay. Therefore, according to this, Z2 into R1 minus Z1 into R2. Similarly, what is the next step? Yeah, yeah, I will neglect the second column now. Now, what is the next one? Will come minus of Z2 minus Z1. Next, last one, R2 minus R1. Plus no. So this much is the C matrix now. That is adjoint of A means that is we want means cofactor matrix in power of T. That means now we need to transpose this. Row become column, column become row. Now what is the column now? That is we will see. And next slide I will go. Here they done this. R2 into Z3 minus R3 into Z2, R3 into Z1 minus R1 into Z3, R1 into Z2 minus R2 into Z1. How they got? See, we done here, no? This row become column now. Correct? Z3 into R2 minus Z3 into R3. Is there here? Next. Here, multiply minus inside. That is become Z plus Z1 R3 minus Z3 into R2. Correct? This one. Next. This one. Z2 R1 minus Z1 R2. That is this one. Like that. Means what is that we find out it here? This one. This matrix, cofactor matrix, that we need to transpose. Once you transpose, you will get like this. Is it clear? Now, okay, we got adjoint of matrix. In order to find the A inverse, still I want determinant of A. What is determinant of A? Determinant of A matrix we need to find. How to do that? This is my A matrix. This is my A matrix. I need to find the determinant. Very easy. So just take up this. How to find the determinant? 1 into, yeah, 1 into R2 into Z3 minus R3 into Z2. What is the next one? R1 into, what is the next one? R1 into Z3 minus, this is minus, correct? No? Yeah. Next is here plus Z1 into, what is the next one is there? I will erase this then. Yeah. That is R3 minus R2 into Z1 plus. Correct? This is known as determinant of A matrix. Clear? All of you understood this? This is the basics fundamental of matrix operations. Determine adjoint matrix, determinant matrix. Clear? Hello? Now see, this is known as C of T matrix. This is determinant of matrix. Where I have to substitute in equation number 1 here. In place of determinant of matrix and cofactor transpose matrix, we need to substitute the value. Therefore, substitute 2 and 3 in 1. That is here. This much is called determinant of matrix, and this much is known as where is that? Yeah. This much is known as adjoint of matrix or cofactor matrix transpose C of T. So therefore we got A inverse into what is there here? U1, U2, U3. U1, U2, U3 is equal to what? A1, A2, A3. That is what we done here. Clear? All of you understood? T. This is determinant of A. Keep this in mind. Now, very important thing, one more thing I should tell here. This, what is this A inverse matrix what we got here? This is usually called as one more name, very important, that is known as Jacobian matrix. What is called? In with respect to here, with respect to this axis symmetric triangular element, this is known as not material, sorry, matrix. Jacobian matrix. Jacobian matrix. Because why I said this one, no, sometime only one time maybe they given in the question, derive the Jacobian matrix for the uh, axis symmetric element. They asked Jacobian matrix means what you do, you have to derive up to here, including A inverse value also you have to do. That means up to here you have to do it. Up to here you have to do the derivation. That is Jacobian matrix. Jacobian matrix means nothing but A inverse matrix. Keep this in mind. So therefore we can call this determinant of J. Usually Jacobian denoted by J notation. J stands for Jacobian. This is nothing but adjoint of J. Adjoint of J divided by determinant of J, you will get J matrix. That is Jacobian matrix. Clear? I think up to here we done the derivation last class. Now, what is the next thing? This is one more. We'll continue the derivation. See, one more property of this triangular element. This one is area of triangle. If you want to find what is the area of this triangular element, axis symmetric elements means that value of A, area of that will be is equal to half of the determinant of matrix A will be there, or Jacobian matrix J will be there. Half of determinant. That is what they said here. The area of this triangular element will be half of the determinant of Jacobian matrix. What is determinant of Jacobian? Jacobian means this one. Okay. This is known as Jacobian matrix. That is called J matrix. Here, actually, this one is called Jacobian matrix. Jacobian matrix. So therefore, so this is very important. Keep this in mind. The triangular element A is 1 by 2, nothing but half of the determinant of Jacobian matrix will be there. This is the one of the very important property of the triangular axis symmetric element. That is its property. Got it? Hello? Understood? Keep this in mind. I will repeat once again. The area of the triangular element of axis symmetric elements will be equal to half of the determinant of Jacobian matrix. Determinant of Jacobian matrix will be there. Therefore, now A is equal to 1 by 2 of determinant of J. What is determinant of J? We already find out it here, determinant of matrix, correct? Equation number 3. isn't it? Determinant of J already I know, right? Hello? Therefore, that value we need to substitute here. Therefore, this 2 I will take to this side. Therefore, that is become 2 times of A is equal to this much. Now, in place of determinant matrix, what I can substitute here? What I can substitute, this value I called, this value I can call as what? 2 times of A. Correct, no? Therefore, A1, A2, A3 is equal to 1 by 2A into cofactor transpose matrix into displacement matrix. Now, here very important, please kindly observe. Therefore, A1, A2, A3 is equal to 1 by 2A alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma 3 matrix is into U1, U2, U3. What is alpha 1, beta 1, gamma 1, alpha 2, beta 2, gamma 2, alpha 3, beta 3, gamma 3 means alpha 1 means what they consider now? What they consider alpha 1 means R2 Z3 minus R3 Z2. Alpha 2 means this is the alpha 2. R3 Z1 minus R1 Z3. Alpha 3 means R1 Z2 minus R2 Z1. Similarly, this is beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. This is gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma 3. This is very important. Clear? Is it clear? Okay. Now, okay. See, what we consider this U1, U2, U3 is called nodal displacement. With respect to the each node, what is the nodal displacement function? Now we are taking global displacement. Global displacement, then the picture comes under global displacement. That is global coordinates. That is U is equal to A1 plus A2R plus A3Z. Because which is the global coordinate system now? Global coordinate system is one is R, one is Z. Whereas R1 Z1, R2 Z2, R3 Z3 with respect to the coordinates with respect to the nodal. This only R and Z is called global coordinate system. Therefore, we need to find the global displacement function U means A1 plus A2R plus A3Z. Therefore, again I am going to express this in terms of matrix form like this. Therefore, U is equal to 1 RZ. What I can call A1, A2, A3 matrix as this one. We proved. Correct? 1 by 2A alpha, beta, gamma matrix with corresponding nodal numbers 1, 2, 3 and U1, U2, U3. That they are substituted here. So this is U global displacement matrix now. U is equal to. Therefore, next step is you multiply this matrix. Multiply this row into this column divided by 2A. What is now first row, first column? Alpha into 1, how much? Alpha into 1, alpha 1. Next, R into beta 1, R beta 1. Next, Z gamma 1, gamma 1 Z. Divided by what will be there? Divided by what? 2A. Similarly, first row, second column. Alpha 1 into alpha 2, R into beta 2, Z into gamma 2 divided by 2A. Similarly, first row, third column. R into gamma alpha 3, R into beta 3, Z into gamma 3 divided by 2A into U1, U2, U3. Now, finally, U is equal to, we can call it as N1, N2, N3 into U1, U2, U3. What is N1, N2, N3? Means N1, N2 are the shape function. What is N1 we called as? N1 is nothing but alpha 1, beta 1, R plus gamma 1, Z divided by 2A. I think next step that is there. Yeah, here. N2 means alpha 2, beta 2, R, gamma 2, Z divided by 2A. N3 is equal to alpha 3, beta 3, R plus gamma 3, Z divided by 2A. So these are called what? Shape function. For which case? For which case? Axis symmetric element. For a axis symmetric triangular elements. Okay? Understood? What is again alpha 1 beta 1 means? Alpha 1 beta 1 means here we find out it. What is alpha 1, what is beta 1, gamma 2, gamma 3, alpha 3, all these things are this one. That if you substitute the value divided by 2a, area of triangle, if you do it, what is area of triangle? Area of triangle is nothing but 1 by half of the determinant of Jacobian matrix. That is what. And finally, next one, this one we derived. Suppose if it is a isoparametric formulation, if we consider the isoparametric element formulation, what is isoparametric elements means? What is isoparametric elements means? What do you mean by isoparametric? Forget. Correct now. Where you discuss at least this topic, where isoparametric elements. Tell me what is isoparametric means. How many times I asked these questions? No, for you. You are answered. So many people answered. Now tell me what is isoparametric. See, isoparametric means one is the elements having curved edge. Keep this in mind. See, what we consider with respect to this figure, it's having curved edge or linear edge. Curved edge or linear edge. This triangular element having curved edge or linear edge. Curved edge ಇದೆಯಾ? Linear ಅಲ್ವಾ? Linear. It is a linear. Now I'm going to consider isoparametrical. Isoparametric means it's having curved edge, means like kind of like this. Correct now? 1, 2, 3. Now for this kind of triangular isoparametric element, the displacement function will become in the form of u is equal to n1 u1 plus n2 u2 plus n3 u3. That is nothing but this one only. Multiply these two matrix n1 into u1, n2 into u2, n3 into u3. Similarly, this is for axial displacement. Suppose, sorry, radial displacement. This is called radial displacement, not axial, radial direction. Suppose if you want axial displacement, in place of u, what is you have to replace with? W. W is equal to N1 W1, N2 W2, N3 W3. Therefore, finally, my U is with respect to the displacement, the global displacement function with respect to U and with respect to W. That is radial direction, axial direction. Now, this and this equation, if I express it in matrix form, it is become like this. N1 0, N2 0, N3 0, 0 N1, 0 N2, 0 N3, U1, W1, U2, W2, U3, W. How you got this? See, if you multiply now, N1 into first row, first column, you do it. N1 into U1, N1, U1. Next, 0 into W1, 0. Next, N2 into U2, into U2. Next, 0 into W2, 0. Plus N3 into U3, then 0 into W3. So if you do this, what you got? You will get first equation. What is that? The displacement along radial direction. This is the equation you got. Correct now? Similarly, if you second row, first column, if you do it, what is the equation you will get? This equation. That is global displacement along axial direction. Isn't it? Yeah, that's all. So finally, we derived shape function, that is n1, n2, n3. What is n1 means? You have to memorize this. N1 means alpha 1 beta 1 r gamma 1 z divided by 2a. N2 is this much and n3 is this much. And what is again alpha 1 beta 1 means? You have to memorize this. This is the alpha 1 beta 1, alpha 2 beta 2, alpha 3 beta 3 or gamma 3 value. Okay, clear? Understood? All of you understood? All of you understood? Oh, fine. Okay, this is one important derivation. Another important derivation will be on this last derivation. As I said, there is only two derivation. In that two only, they will keep on repeating the question. That's all. Fixed question ಅಂತರ. ನೀವು ಎರಡು ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಬಂದೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಏನು ಕೇಳಕ್ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. That is called derivation of stiffness matrix for an axisymmetric element, or we can call it as derivation of strain displacement matrix and stiffness matrix. Means in order to do the stiffness matrix, you have to derive first strain displacement matrix, then only you get stiffness matrix. That is what we are going to do. How we derive for the like 1D bar, trusses, uh, beams and all. Now we have to derive the stiffness matrix. Understood? Hello? Okay. See, again, for that, they are going to consider the same figure. What we consider for the same function, same figure they are considering. They consider one triangular axisymmetric element with a nodal displacement u1, u2, u3, u1, u2, u3, w1, w2, w3 at node 1, node 2, node 3. Similarly, the global displacements coordinates are rz and r1, z1 at the coordinates at node 1, r2, z2 at node 2, r3, z3 at node 3. Now, we need to derive the stiffness matrix. See, in order to derive the stiffness matrix, we are going to taking a potential energy function, that is pi. I think OP can remember. Let me see how many people are remember this equation. Where you discussed, at least tell me this equation where you discussed potential energy function equation. Where you discussed? No idea. We are discussed. At least can you recall it? Where you discuss in which model? Phi is equal to half of sigma transpose epsilon dv minus u of t f dv minus u of t tds. Where you got? Okay. No, you are not memorized that. Where you? Any idea? In model number 1 only, no? I think where is that? We'll see. Phi is nothing but potential energy function. Yeah, here. Okay, I think you can see this figure. Hope you can remember. What is this figure? What topic we discussed here? What topic we discussed? Types of forces we discussed, no? One is body force, traction force, point force. Correct? In this topic, we discussed what is body force. First we discussed what is body force, because this is very important. Now we are going to discuss in the next. What is body force means? The force which is acting on the entire volume of the body. Example, self weight, electromagnetic force, centrifugal force, inertia force. It is acting with respect to the volume, that is known as body force. Fx, Fy, Fz with respect to along three direction. So now we derived potential function for this. Therefore, potential function is nothing but displacement into force. Therefore, F is equal to U into F, which is acting on the entire volume. That's why dV we consider. So U is nothing but displacement. That is U with respect to along x, y, z. That is U, V, W, or the displacement along x, y direction. Similarly, next force is what we consider traction force. What is traction force means? What is traction force? Hello? Traction force nothing but surface force. What is surface force means? Surface force means which is acting on the surface of the body. Example, surface shear stress, shear force, viscous force, friction force, which is acting along the surface of the body. Body force means along the volume, entire volume. Surface means only along the surface. Therefore, the unit become Newton per mm square. Whereas in case of body force, Newton per mm cube, because with respect to the body it will act. Therefore, the corresponding the traction forces are along xy direction tx, ty, tz that we represent in a matrix form. And finally, the work potential due to traction force become displacement into force. Displacement is u into force, that is traction force t, which is acting along the surface. That's why into ds will be there. Therefore, u is same. Displacement along xy direction, that is uvw. Is it clear? What is the last force? What is the last force we discussed? Point force, not potential energy. Point force. So what is point force means? P, which is acting on a particular point with a negligible area. Therefore, that is points with respect to x, y, z are px, py, pz. Therefore, the work potential P become sum of u into pi. Means with I stands for number of points which is acting, like P1, P2, P3, P4, and so on. Therefore, the total work potential become sum of work potential due to body force, work potential due to traction force, work potential due to point load. All are negative because of why? Energy obtained from the external source. That is what. So here this is called work potential. Now the same equation you are used here. Observe, the same equation we are used here. Correct now? But the thing is, one more extra. We are going to use the term here. I think you have seen here. That is strain energy. This much first term is called strain energy, and this is work potential due to body force, work potential due to traction force, work potential due to point force. Now if you are going to integrate here, why integration symbol is here means we are going to find the total work potential due to body force, due to traction force, and one more is point force. So only body force and traction force there is a integration will comes, because which is acting along the surface and what we call volume. But in case of point force, we are not going to integrate because it is acting at a discrete point. Therefore we have to sum it, like u1 p1, u2 p2, u3 p3. Therefore how many points it's acting, if we add all the those work potential, you will get total. That is why they are going to use here summation sigma. 1 minute. Are you getting? Hello? Okay. Minute. ಸರ್ ಯು ಪಿ ಎಸ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನು ಯು ಪಿ ಎಸ್ ಆಗ್ನಿಲ್ವಾ? Okay. Can you hear me? Hello? 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 Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, sorry, interruption. Fine. So what you are discussing actually? Yeah, okay, this is what you're discussing now, potential energy. So the potential energy become actually potential energy actually we are not discussed. That is I told you to we will do it at the end. Correct now. So therefore we'll take it at the end. Total potential energy is nothing but pi. Pi is equal to strain energy, sum of strain energy plus work potential, that is due to body force, due to traction force and due to point load. Therefore strain energy is nothing but Sc is equal to 1 by 2 half of sigma transpose into epsilon into dV. This also again we are not discussed how we got this derivation. There is a small derivation is there that will take up at the end. On in the module number 1 it is there, actually we are not done. So now for a time being you memorize this half of sigma t epsilon dV integration. Therefore so we are taking strain energy now. So this strain energy according to the Hooke's law, what is epsilon I can call as, yeah, before that, okay. So what is Hooke's law? What is Hooke's law? That is according to the Hooke's law, stress is directly proportional to strain. Correct. That is E is equal to sigma by what? Hello, epsilon. Therefore, sigma become what? Sigma become what? E into epsilon. Okay. Now, okay. So now here what is there? Sigma transpose epsilon into dV is there. Okay. So now what we are going to do from the Hooke's law, they are saying that 1 by 2 integration of epsilon t dB into q into 2 pi r into dA. So what is this 2 pi r dA means? That is nothing but 2 pi r nothing but which area? 2 pi r nothing but which area? Hello? Hello? 2 pi r nothing but which area? Huh? Which area? That is which circle area only? In that which area, that is 2 pi r? Cross section area, correct? Cross section area, correct? Cross section area na? 2 pi r. Cross section area nanapa? What is cross section area of circle? Pi d square by 4, no? Hello? or pi r square. But here 2 pi r is there. 2 pi r means what is that become? 2 pi r not a area. It is an perimeter or circumference. Correct. So what they done is volume they substituted as dV is equal to, we know volume is area into length. Correct? That is dV means here dA, element area dA into length. What is the length? That length is nothing but elemental, that is circumferential length, that is 2 pi r. Why circumferential length means? Because axis symmetric is a kind of circular in nature, that's why they taken circumferential length. So this much we called as what? So this much we called as d into v. Clear? Hello? Okay. Next, what is this term we got? Epsilon t into d into b into q. I think this is the derivation we done in module number 2, that is 1D bar. Hope you can remember that. In a stiffness matrix based on the potential energy we derived. Hello? It is there. I will try to open that document. Then you can. Yeah. Here. Can you see here? Hello? Hello? See, here same thing. Strain energy we consider as half of sigma transpose epsilon A into dx. So what is sigma? Here we derived in a 1D bar only. Sigma, we know epsilon is equal to b into q. Therefore, according to the Hooke's law, sigma is equal to epsilon into E. Correct? Epsilon into, that is Young's modulus into strain. What is strain? That is B into Q, isn't it? So that B into Q into E, whole thing is substituted in place of sigma. Whole transpose will be there. So that into again epsilon. Epsilon means what? B into Q. Correct? Into A into dx. Same way here what they done is what I can substitute here. According to the Hooke's law, sigma is equal to E into epsilon. What is epsilon I can substitute as? What is epsilon I can substitute as? That is B into Q. Correct? B into Q. So in place of sigma T, they substituted E into B into Q, whole of transpose. Again, here E epsilon is there. Again, epsilon means what I can substitute? B into Q. That is what they done here. Clear? Here, in place of epsilon transpose, they substituted B into Q. In place of epsilon, B into Q. Is it clear? Okay. Into 2 pi r into dA. Already explained how we got 2 pi r into dA. Therefore, next step is we are going to rewrite this equation. How we can rewrite means, please observe. Let me take 1 by 2 q of transpose that outside. Inside that, what they are going to write, this 2 pi is constant. Let us take the outside the integral. 2 pi is equal 2 pi into integral of b transpose into d into r into dA. See again, where we got d? Here we said Young's modulus, but they are using here D. What is E? D nothing but what? It's a material property matrix. D nothing but E. Okay. Therefore, finally, one strain energy become 1 by 2 Q transpose, and what this whole term they called as what? Whole term they called as what? Q K E. That is elemental stiffness matrix for a which case axisymmetric case into Q. Therefore, what is Ke? Nothing but Ke nothing but 2 pi into B transpose into D into B R into dA. B is called strain displacement matrix. D is called elemental material property matrix. That is D is equal to, we know that D is, we already proved this much. D is equal to E by 1 plus epsilon, sorry, 1 plus mu, 1 minus 2 mu into this much. This is known as material property matrix. I already know what is D, but I don't know what is the strain displacement equation for this case. That we need to derive. Then only we'll get elemental stiffness matrix. Hello? I will repeat once again because you have to understand. See, first we are going to derive the stiffness matrix means based on the potential energy. The potential energy is nothing but sum of strain energy plus work potential due to body force, traction force and point force. Now we are going to considering only the strain energy part. Strain energy for the element this much. Again, according to the Hooke's law, sigma we called as epsilon into sigma we called as epsilon into Young's modulus. Therefore, epsilon again we called as B into Q, that is strain displacement matrix into Q, and E we called as D directly. So therefore, when you rewrite this equation like this, what inside this term we can call as stiffness matrix, that is K, where B is strain displacement matrix, D is called material property matrix, that D value will be this much matrix value. Now, what is B that we need to derive? That is the next step. We are going to do that. We know already D matrix, but we don't know what is the strain displacement for matrix for this axisymmetric element B and B transpose. We need to know. That's why we are going to proceed with the next part derivation. Clear? Is it clear? Simply don't say yes. If you are not understood, let me know. Because these two derivation only important. It's a fixed derivation. That's what I'm stressing you. Any one derivation definitely comes in exam. 12 marks or 10 marks. Okay. Is it clear up to here? Now, in order to derive the element stiffness matrix, you should know B first. What is B? That we are going to take up. That is strain displacement matrix. For that, as usual in the case of shape function, they are going to consider displacement function in the form of polynomial. That is two displacement function with respect to radial and another with respect to what direction? Axial. Good. Therefore, the global displacement function along the axial direction is this one. The global displacement function, sorry, this is the radial direction. The global displacement function with respect to the axial direction is W is equal to A4 plus A5 R plus A6Z. Now, we are going to find the nodal displacement function with respect to axial and radial. First, we'll take radial. That is with respect to this figure, U1, U2, U3. Similarly, W1, W2, W3. With as usual, how we done for the previous derivation, same way you can write U1, U2, here R1, Z1, R2, Z2. Similarly, U3, R3, Z will come. Similarly, nodal displacement along axial direction is as usual. Now, we know that global displacement function we express in a matrix form like this. Correct? Correct now? We are done already here. Same way. Isn't it? Okay. Now, Now we are going to considering here strain. There are three types of strain. One is along the radial direction, it is radial strain. Along the longitudinal direction or axial direction, it is called axial strain. And one more along the theta direction, it is called circumferential strain. What is epsilon r? That also we know. Du by dr. Again, this du by dr, this du by dr means what is u? U is nothing but n1. Here u1 will be there. N1 u1 plus n2 u2 plus n3 u3. Isn't it? According to the isoparametric formulation, how we taken in the previous derivation here. Correct? Diana? Okay. See, du by dr means you have to differentiate the u equation with respect to r. That is d by dr n1 u1, d by dr n2 u2, d by dr n3 u3. Similarly, the radial longitudinal strain with nothing but axial strain, that is w equation. This you have to uh, differentiate with respect to z, that is d by w is equal to d by dz n1 w1, d by dz n2 w2 plus d by dz n3 w3. And circumferential strain, circumferential means nothing but u by r, nothing but u by r. What is u? We know n1 u1 by r plus n2 u2 by r plus n3 u3 by r, means r divided by everywhere 1 by r. And next one is shear strain. There are totally these many strain, 1 2 3 4. Correct? We already we know there are 4 strain, 3 normal strain, 1 is shear strain, isn't it? Therefore shear strain, what is shear strain? Du by dz plus dw by dr. What is du by dz? That is d, d by dz u. U means you have to substitute again. D by dz n1 u1 plus d by dz n2 u2 plus d by dz n3 u3 plus what is there? dw by dr. What is dw dr? You can call as, means we have to differentiate the w equation with respect to r. What is that become? What is that become? D by dr n1 w1, d by dr n2 w2 plus d by dr n3 w3. Isn't it? These three. This is with respect to r, this is with respect to z. When you differentiate with respect to the z and r with respect the equations u and w. Clear? Is it clear? Now finally, what is the equation we got? We can express in a matrix form. How? Like this. Here epsilon r, epsilon z, epsilon theta and gamma rz, this is a one matrix, is equal to this much into u1 w1 u2 w2 u3 w3. That means that if you multiply this first row and first column, what is the equation you'll get? Epsilon r will get. How? Let me one verify. First row first column, dn1 into dr into what? Into what? u1. Yeah, we got this. Similarly 0 into w1, 0. Next dn2 by dr into what? u2. Yeah, we got second term. Correct. 0 into w2. Correct? No? 0 into w2, 0. Again dn3 into dr into u3. Yes. Finally 0 into w3 is 0. So first equation you got. Like that, if you multiply this equation, you will get this equation. Understood? So what? These 4 totally, sorry, yeah, 1 2 3 4 equation we just express in a matrix form like this. Clear? These 4 equation we are expressed in a matrix form, but that means if you multiply these two matrices, you will get all 4 equations. Understood? Therefore, and we know what is n1? This one, alpha 1 beta 1 r plus gamma 1 z by 2a, shape function we derived previously. Correct? Similarly n2 value this one, n3 value this one. Correct? Now here not only n1 is there. Let me take first term differentiation of n1 with respect to what? With respect to what? R. Similarly, n2 differentiate with respect to R, n3 differentiate with respect to R. Similarly, here n1 differentiate with respect to Z, n2 with respect to Z, and n3 with respect to Z. Similarly, here n1 with respect to Z, like that. So we have to derive one by one separately. dn by dr. Let me take first one. Differentiate with respect to R. What is the differentiate with respect to R become here? This one. Differentiation of n1 with respect to R become what? What is this become? Alpha 1 become what? 0. Hello? Alpha 1 is a constant, become 0. Again, beta 1 into what? Differentiation of R 1 plus gamma 1 into Z become what? 0. Divided by what? 2a. That is nothing but beta 1 by 2a. Similarly, what is the differentiation of n2 with respect to R? That's all. What is differentiation of n3 with respect to R? That's all. Similarly, let me take next one, dn by dz. What is the differentiation of n1 with respect to Z? n1 with respect to Z, gamma 1 divided by 2a. Similarly, what is the differentiation of n2 with respect to Z? Yes. What is the differentiation of n3 with respect to Z? Correct. Isn't it? Similarly, everything we got same. That's all, no? Yeah. So dn2, dn by dr we done already. Okay. Now n1 by nr. What is n1? This is the n1 divided by r. Therefore, 1 by r I multiply by inside. Therefore, what happened? Alpha 1 divided by r plus beta 1 divided by r. R get what happened? Cancelled. Correct, no? Beta 1 r divided by r become r get cancelled. Correct? See, that means what is the term here? N1 divided by r. Correct? That means you have to divide for the n equation everywhere 1 by r. That means alpha 1 divided by r plus beta 1 r divided by, sorry, I can't able to write properly, divided by r plus gamma 1 z divided by r whole into 1 by 2a. Correct? ಈಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? r get cancelled here. Correct? What is left? n1 by r nothing but 1 by 2a alpha 1 by r plus beta 1 gamma 1 z by r. Clear? Similarly, n2 is not n1. n2 divided by r is what happened? Again this r get cancelled. Correct? That is alpha 2 by r plus beta 2 plus gamma 2 z by r. Similarly, in n3, alpha 3 by r plus beta 3 gamma z by r. Correct na? Now we got all the elements value where you have to substitute in this matrix in place of this. That is what we done. Substituting all the above equations in the matrix. That is this one. dn by n1 means beta 1 by 2a. Means everywhere 2a is there. Then let me take outside matrix outside. They taken and remaining things are inside. Finally, what we can call this one as strain matrix. And finally, what we can call this one as called as B matrix. B matrix is nothing but what? Strain displacement matrix. That is nothing but this is the one. Understood? And what is this called? Nodal displacement matrix. That is U matrix. Global, nodal, global displacement matrix. So finally we got B. But in order to derive the stiffness matrix, what is still required? B, and B, what is there here? Transpose. That means transpose matrix means what you have to do? Transpose matrix means what you have to do? we need to transpose. Row become column, column become row. That's all. This we can express in a B transpose now. How to express it? B transpose become 1, I will write. This row become column. What is the column now? Beta 1, 0, beta 2, 0, beta 3, 0. Correct. Like this. All this become column. Again, second row become column, third row, fourth row. Like that you have to write it. Correct? So again, suppose what is beta 1, beta 2, gamma 1, gamma 2, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3 means we already proved. We already derived in a previous derivation. Alpha 1 is nothing but R2 Z3 minus R3 Z2. Alpha 2 is nothing but R3 Z1 minus. That is in this derivation we done no previously. ಇಲ್ಲಿ derive ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನ substitute ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ then you'll get what alpha 1 beta 1 gamma 1 like this. If you know Z1 Z2 Z3 Z1 R3, if you can calculate. Fine. Now we got B matrix. We know B matrix means B transpose matrix also we got. Finally what we can derive? Stiffness matrix. So what is stiffness matrix means? See, we know K is equal to 2 pi r B transpose B into R into dA. Where what is R means here? See, R is nothing but here very important. Observe here. R can be evaluated at the centroid of the triangle. That is nothing but centroid of the triangle. You know centroid of the triangle, correct? Centroid means you know. Hello? Centroid means here. It is called centroid R. So that centroid R, nothing but R bar is R1 plus R2 plus R3 divided by 3. Average of this. So where R bar is nothing but radius of the centroid. Suppose here somewhere CG will be there. This is the axis. With respect to this, what will measure? That is known as centroid of the radius. That is R bar. R bar is nothing but R1 plus R2 plus R3 divided by 3. Hello? Can you hear me? And also they saying that at centroid and this point, your shape function n1 will be equal to n2, n2 equal to n3, and that value will be, how much will be there? 1 by 3 times will be there. That is what they said here. N1 equal to N3 equal to 1 by 3. This is only applicable at the centroid on this point. Clear? Therefore, now this stiffness matrix with respect to this centroidal radius, if we consider, we are going to use B called as B bar. B transpose we can use as B bar transpose, and R we can call as R bar. That means this is the stiffness matrix with respect to the centroidal of the triangle. Therefore, we know K is equal to 2 pi B transpose dB into R into dA. With respect to the centroid is, just replace the B transpose with the B transpose bar, D with respect to the B bar, R with respect to the R bar. Whereas D and dA will be material property, D is the material property, it will not change, dA also will not change as it is. Therefore, finally my K become K become, if we so all these are constant, you can take outside. What is the integration of dA become? What is the integration of dA? What is the integration of dA? A. Therefore, finally my K become 2 pi into R bar into A B bar transpose D into B bar, where A is the area of the triangular element. So what is triangular element area? I said triangular axisymmetric element area will be always A is equal to half of the what? Determinant of Jacobian matrix will be there. Determinant of Jacobian matrix. So if you want to calculate K means you required area, you required B transpose matrix, you required D matrix, you required B matrix. What is D matrix? This is the D matrix. What is B matrix? Just know we derived. Strain displacement matrix is this one, correct? And B transpose means you can know by if you transpose this, you'll get B transpose. And R, how to find the R bar? R bar is nothing but R1 plus R2 plus R3 divided by 3. Once you multiply all these terms, finally what you'll get? Finally what you'll get? Stiffness matrix. This is the final your stiffness matrix equation. Clear? Artha aitendrapa? Up to here you have to derive like this. So that's why it is 10 or 12 marks will be there. Okay. If you practice these two derivation, one is shape function derivation, one is stiffness derivation, fix one question derivation till comes in exam. Pakka on this topic. Okay. You have to practice. That's all. Hope you can understand all the steps. Up to Jacobian matrix you have to derive means up to here you can do it. And if you want, you can find the transpose values also. That is A inverse values also. Okay. After done, if you are well and good. Clear? Now. Okay, we derived shape function. We derived stiffness matrix. Now we are going to next what we are discussing. There is no derivation. We'll take up directly the equation, that is body force. One more is traction force. So what is body force? What is body force? Yes, force acting on the entire volume of the body. What are the examples? What are the examples? Huh? Self weight, then centrifugal force, inertia force. All these are called as body forces. Now, with respect to the axis symmetric element, we are going to consider body force and traction force. See, till now what we consider for the beam case, for the bar case, for the truss case, for the torsion case, only we considering the like points load. We are not anywhere, we are not considering any body force. I think one problem we maybe consider in the bar, I think taper bar, but in entire axis symmetric element, body force and traction force only will consider. Okay. Therefore, how to find the body force? We need to derive the equation, but derivation is not there. Directly we'll take up the equation. So you know work potential. Just now I said, what is the work potential due to body force? That is U of t is into F into dV. What is dV? What is dV means? What is dV? Volume. What is the volume of the body? Axis symmetric body? Area into length. What is the length? What is the length now? For a circumferential, you have to consider no 2 pi r. That is 2 pi r into dA. So based on this, if you derive, what you will get finally the body force equation is this much. That is 2 pi r into A divided by 3 Fr, Fz, Fr, Fz, Fr, Fz. That is nothing but Fr1, Z1, Fr2, Z2, Fr3, Z3 bar. Bar stands for what? What is this bar stands for? With respect to the centroid of the element. So what is Fr and Fz? Where Fr is nothing but centrifugal force, Fz is nothing but which force? Gravitational force. What is Fr? How to find Fr again? Fr means you have to do centrifugal force means you know that that is sigma density into r into omega square, r into omega square, density into r into omega square. What is omega? How to find omega? How to find omega? 2 pi. What is omega? 2 pi n by 60. If you know speed, I can if able to find the omega, that is angular. What is omega means? Which velocity? Angular velocity. Similarly, Fz. How to find Fz? Gravitational force. That is minus rho into g. Minus rho into g. So once you know Fr, once you know Fz, you can directly after that you can calculate the what is that body force. That total body force become 2 pi r a by 3 Fr1 Fz1 Fr2 Fz2 Fr3 Fz3 with respect to the central axis. That's why bar it comes to the picture. Clear? Clear? And finally you have to memorize these two equations to solve the problem. Body force. Similarly, next force, last force is traction force. Traction force means what? What is traction force? Hello? Which is acting on the surface. Example, like it may be pressure force, it may be a shear force, viscous force. All these are acting on a surface force. Therefore, let's consider the your axisymmetric element. Suppose you take a node 1 and 2. On this edge, your traction force will be acting. On this edge, your traction force will be acting. So therefore, in order to find this one, we are going to use work potential. You know work potential due to traction force is u of t into ds, isn't it? Okay. Now, therefore, again, ds means what they are considered as. What is ds means? What is ds? Okay, surface area. Now tell me, now axisymmetry is a kind of circular body. Let me take the circular body like cylinder. What is the surface area of this become? Surface area. How to find the surface area? Surface area, area of the circle alla. Cross section is not, I'm asking. Cross section is you know pi d square by 4, but I'm asking surface area. I told you know how to find the surface area. Again, perimeter into, how it become perimeter into length? What you do? You have to imagine that you have to cut and open. Once you cut and open, what you'll get the shape? What is the shape you get? It's a rectangle. Correct? No. Let me take, this is L and this is diameter D. Now what is this length become now? L. Correct? What is this height become? When you cut and open, what is this length become? This height. Hey, ಈ ಸಿಲಿಂಡರ್ ನ ಕಟ್, if you cut it this cylinder and open it, ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? Circumference no? See, imagine that you are cut this cylinder and open it. It become like a rectangle. Correct? Length, this length is nothing but this. What about this height? This height is nothing but when I cut this circle and open it, that is become perimeter or circumference. Isn't it? Now what is the area of this rectangle? What is the area of this rectangle? Length into height. ಏನು length? L. What is height? That is what they done here. 2 pi r into with respect to small elemental means dl if we consider 2 pi r into dl. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ds ತಗೊಂಡಿದೀವಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. Clear? These small things matters lot. Please keep this in mind. Therefore, after derivation, after you simplify and done the derivation, you will get finally the traction force equation is like this: 2 pi r bar into L divided by 2 into Tr Tz Tr Tz. See here, not see in the body force the total F for F for Fz with respect to node 1, node 2, node 3. But here please carefully observe. Here the total terms are 6, but here total terms are how much are there? T terms are how much? Only 4, no? Why only 4? Keep this in mind. Why? Because the traction force which is acting on with respect to the nodes, how many nodes? This traction force acting with respect to the how many nodes? Which are the nodes it's acting? 1 and 2 only, right? So with respect to node 1, along the radial direction it is Tr1, along axial direction it is Tz1. Similarly, with respect to node 2, along the radial direction is Tr2, along the axial direction is Tz2. That's what here Tr1, Tz1, Tr2, Tz2. See, you observe carefully here. L with respect to they written as 1-2. That means what? L, what is the length we are considering with respect to the this element? ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? Because the traction force acting between node 1 and 2 only. This edge. Is it clear? Therefore, what is L? You have to how to find the L? L is nothing but root of R2 minus R1 whole square plus Z2 minus Z1 whole square. I'll repeat, R2 minus R1 whole square plus Z2 minus Z1 whole square. What is R2? Here, nodal the displacement is there, no? Sorry, coordinate system. At node 1, it is R1, what? Z1. Here, R2, Z2. Isn't it? Is it clear? Therefore, with respect to this, R2 minus R1 plus Z2 minus Z2. That means we are taking the distance with respect to here. Elaine bರುತ್ತೆ horizontal distance R1, R2 minus R1 na horizontal distance difference. Similarly, vertical displacement ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ? Distance here Z2 minus Z1. This is the origin. If you consider this is the origin, R2 minus R1 plus Z2 minus Z2. Clear? Or apply the Pythagoras rule. That's all. Apply the Pythagoras rule. ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಟ್ರಯಾಂಗಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, ರೈಟ್ ಆಂಗಲ್ ಟ್ರಯಾಂಗಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. You can observe here. ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು become right angle triangle, no? Let me call this length as edge length as L. Therefore, L become what? This length square plus this square whole root. What is this distance? What is this distance? R2 minus R1. Correct? Huh? What is this length height? This length, the vertical height, you know? Clear? If you root whole root, if you do it, you will get this length, hypotenuse length. Pythagoras rule. Understood? Small things very important. That's what I'm saying. So by this we completed all the theoretical part which is comes under on the axisymmetric elements. First one is shape function, then we derived stiffness matrix, then we taken up forces. One is body force, another one is which force? Action forces. Okay. So in the next class, we'll go into take up the problems.